is Farmcraft 2023. Welcome, everyone. We are happy to be here again, talking about all kinds of aspects of agriculture. I love how this program has evolved over 3 years and continues to expand. And I'm going to brag a little bit and say I've seen the new world, and it is amazing the things that you have added for the new aspects of Farmcraft. So
no spoilers, Claire. No spoilers.
I'm holding my tongue really carefully. It's hard to do. Speaking of, I'm Claire LeBeau. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for NASEF, and excited to get to host this program with you yet again. We'll do a quick round robin of introductions and then get right into it. So how about Brian? Start us off.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brian, also Cleverlike, created Cleverlike Studios to create games, pursue the passions that I had towards technology and gaming as a kid, and figured out a way to, make playing games my full-time job. And so I get to make Farmcraft and work with awesome people like Eric.
That's not too shabby. And that was a really good segue. Well done. So I'm Eric, also known as River. I get to play all the games and then, of course, write the educational content and things that go with them. That's always one of the inside jokes amongst folks on the team. They're like, oh, what documents are you writing today as they're programming games? But every once in a while I get to get in there, especially with Minecraft. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love it. So, it's too much fun. And we get to do stuff like this, which I have fun every time we get together for these streams. So no complaints from me whatsoever. And I am going to go, I guess it's straight down to Lynn.
Hey everyone in Farmcraft land. I'm excited to say that I'm from the State Department, so like there has to be more games with diplomats in it. So maybe that's the next thing for me. I'm Renard, also known as Renard Rue, and I love Farmcraft, and I'm really excited about the world. But because I'm a diplomat, I'm going to say it's top secret, classified.
That's right.
That
is big red rubber stamp.
Classified. We might be sneaking out a few photos here and there in the next couple of weeks, so you just keep your eyes peeled for that. Lynn, it means so much to us to partner with the State Department and with the American spaces around the world. And as we will see in just a moment, we have some fantastic participation already from folks from all different corners of the globe. And, that global aspect of learning, and then for me of seeing when students submit from different places and seeing different cultures, and the combination of, in this case, we're getting to see very shortly how different produce is available or not available in different places. It just sort of opens your eyes to how the world is the same all over and yet different at the same time. So we'll dive into that a little bit. So the very first thing we're going to do here is take a look at some submissions and see what people have come up with from the preseason challenge number 1. We're just going to dive right in. So take it away, Eric.
Yeah, so preseason challenge 1 was all about what was the marketplace that you were going to create to showcase or to sell, of course, the produce that you were making on your farm. And how was that going to address things like cost? And we asked you to do a little research at what was available in your area, what the cost of those products were. We talked about food accessibility. How are we going to make sure that we are feeding the community that we are opening our farm or our market in? And we wanted to get some feedback from you because, of course, there's some information that we probably and definitely do not know, as Claire was saying, about your community. So this was your opportunity to share a little bit about what are the stable foods? What is in your marketplace that maybe isn't in our marketplace? And we heard quite a bit about it. And what's great is, as you were saying, we truly did get an international response, and we'll share some of those responses in just a second. But honestly, responses came in from all over the map, and actually we'll get to look at just that, a map, in a little while. But let's check out a few videos first. So the first one that we wanted to showcase, and these teams just do a phenomenal job of not only kind of laying everything out, but kind of considering what they're going to say, how they're going to present it, sometimes even adding, little graphics and audio and stuff, which is really great and makes it entertaining for us to watch. But first one comes from Team Onigiri Ninja Company in Japan. So let's check out their submission.
We are Onigiri Ninja Company.
In our town, you can get a
a variety of grains and leafy vegetables. There are various types of products, such as those caught locally, those produced nationwide, and those that are produced only in that region. Vegetables imported from overseas can be safely obtained regardless of the season. For example, for a family of 4, if you pay 500 yen per day, you can use fresh vegetables for meals. There is a supermarket in our town. You can always buy safely, but it is easily affected by price fluctuations.
There is an unmanned sales point in Japan. It is an unmanned sales point for selling vegetable and other agricultural products. Vegetable harvested by farmers, fruits and other agricultural products are placed directly for sale. Buyers put their money in the collection box inside there and take the product with them. There is also a facility called roadside station that collects and sells vegetables from neighboring farms. You can purchase local specialties, such as vegetables and fruits unique to the region.
The idea of turning vegetables into preserved foods and forms that are easy to distribute in Japan has long been around. The idea is to ferment vegetables such as otsukemono and natto to extend the shelf life. It is said to be delicious and good for health. Recently, there is also a system for fresh freezing vegetables harvested during the delicious season and storing them for a long time. In addition, the freeze-drying process is a drying process that does not impose a high temperature on the food. Above all, it is lighter and it is easy to distribute large quantities of vegetables.
I want to spread this kind of information to the world.
That is a great video. They covered so much.
Did
They
say
covered
they have like a vegetable vending
unbelievable.
machine?
I
did.
was trying to figure that out.
Or at least something like
Yeah.
that, right? Which is phenomenal. Also, I have never, in all of my playing of Minecraft, and this is a Minecraft specific, we always like to point out, like when people use things creatively in Minecraft, the minecarts as shopping carts was wonderful. I did never thought of that. I've never really taken the time to build a supermarket in a Minecraft world before, so it never really occurred to me to use it that way. But they went so far beyond, even what we asked for. So, they talked about what was available or how they received produce or how food was made accessible in their area through a variety of ways, right? There was a supermarket, farmer's market, a vending machine, so many different ways. But then also talked about processes that can be used that we didn't even ask about to make that process easier. So preserving foods or fermenting foods. They mentioned one, which was natto, which is one of the ones I'm familiar with because it's fermented soybeans. My brother, it's like one of his favorite foods. He loves it. And it's so hard to find around here. So I actually shared because I found it locally recently, which I was amazed by. So that is something that's available here and there, if you know where to look. But it was just really great to hear them get into the specifics of it, of how those solutions were put in place, things that we asked them to consider, but didn't really expect. I guess I didn't really expect them to dig so deep.
And we really got a sense of the specific cultural and Japanese way of marketing and grocery shopping.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
spirit.
the like the collection box where you're buying your vegetables. I mean, that's fantastic.
I know. That was like, like farmers can just come in and load it up and then people come in and pay. Like that's
Right.
That sounds amazing. Talk about
Yes.
like that's an interesting bit of like compartmentalization, right? Like thinking about like how do your local farmers help with food security, and then also, you know, like you have like the entire population, like how do you also feed the entire population? So it's interesting to be thinking about like those two pieces and how they might work together, because that's part of, you know, that is part of food transportation.
On our last stream, our guest mentioned vanilla, and we talked about vanilla in a little bit of detail as an example. And it kind of inspired us to want to go get vanilla ice cream, like right after our
forgot
stream.
to share my
And
picture.
you forgot.
Did.
Oh, okay.
Totally
you did get it,
and
but
I
you got a
forgot-
picture. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I did not forget the ice cream. Trust me.
I was
just
going to
forgot
say,
post the picture.
how do you forget the ice cream? You don't forget the ice cream.
No.
But I wonder now if, like, you know, we're going to be watching these videos, and of course, people are watching along with us as we stream. And they're going to be inspired to try something that maybe they've never tried before, a type of produce that's not available, or maybe they just didn't know what it was until it was mentioned on this stream, and they're like, oh, now I want to go try that.
Right. Absolutely. Especially if it involves ice cream flavors of different
Well, that makes
varieties.
it
I am all
easier.
about
Ice cream
that.
is
I am
much
all
easier
about the
than-
ice cream. Awesome.
All right.
Well,
So
let's go on. What's the next one?
Yeah, so our next one, you know, is no stranger to our streams, and in fact, you know, it's a group that's been submitting so many. We have so many teams that start their team name with the same word that it's become they've become like this, like, you know,
Force.
they've become like this company, this force, this industry
Yes.
of submitting to Farmcraft, and we love it. But we had to pick one to share this time. It doesn't mean we won't have all new ones to share next time. But we want to share the submission from eBlaze Air, Team eBlaze Air.
And American Space, if I may say so.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Welcome to our investigation of the ability, cost, and origin of popular fruits and vegetables in Bangladesh. We will be looking at potatoes, cassava, tomatoes, bananas, and watermelons found here in the local markets.
Potatoes are widely available in Bangladesh throughout the year, and they are grown in different parts of the country. The price of a potato being valued on the season, with the price being higher during the monsoon due to transportation challenges. On average, the cost of potatoes in Bangladesh is around 23 to 33 cents per kilogram. Cassava is not commonly grown in Bangladesh, and it is not a staple food item in the country. However, cassava is imported from other countries, mainly from Thailand and Vietnam. The price of a cassava in Bangladesh about $1 per kilogram.
Bananas are one of the most popular and widely available fruits to our entire country. On average, the cost of bananas varies on 18 to 27 cents per kilogram.
Tomatoes are very common here, and they are grown in different parts of the country. Price of tomato varies based on the season, with price being higher during the rainy season due to transportation challenges. On average, tomato cost about 33 to 42 cents per kilogram. Watermelon are widely available in Bangladesh, and they have different varieties as Black Diamond watermelon. On average, the cost of a watermelon in Bangladesh is around 0.75 to 0.85 cents per kilogram.
While access to healthy food options in Bangladesh varies depending on factors such as location, income, and infrastructure, there are several ways to ensure everyone can access healthy fruits and vegetables so that the market prices are reduced. Build farmers market and community garden to provide affordable and fresh produce.
Improve transportation to distribute fresh produce to rural areas and smaller communities. Implement educational programs to teach healthy eating habits and let people know about the benefits of fruits and vegetables. Provide incentives to farmers and small-scale producers to improve production and pricing of fruits and vegetables. Overall, it needs to be a combined effort of everyone, starting from farmers to the consumers, to help in bringing more healthy produce to communities.
Thank you very much for watching our video. We hope it has given you a good idea of the food ability here in Bangladesh.
Thank you,
Very
East
cool.
Laser.
Thank you.
Always.
Absolutely.
And so many real world solutions provided there at the end, right? So talking about, community farms, providing, transportation of goods to small rural communities, education programs, all of those things. I mean, we are one of those things. So that's that's, I'm hoping, hopefully, we get inspire some of the students to take up and work on some of these solutions themselves. We're trying to do the same.
Right. I liked, Eric, when they mentioned, I think it was the cassava that's not generally grown there, but they said where it's grown and how you can import it, because that was interesting to me when you chose some of the top crops, top being most popular crops or foods around the world, that they aren't always eaten in my area or grown in my area. And that's part of the fun of this worldwide program, is seeing what other people are doing in other parts of the world. So it's great they added that little fact in there.
And the price goes up when the transportation is difficult, and the transportation is difficult during the rainy season. So you can start to make some assumptions on what is the transportation that is the most affordable that they can do when it's not the rainy season. I'm guessing not boats, because the rainy season and a boat would probably work together really well, but maybe there's something on the ground that, maybe trucking has challenges during the rainy season. So it's like an interesting thing to think about, like where it's grown, where it needs to go, how it needs to get there, and what stands in the way, and how does that affect the price and the ability to deliver it on time and fresh.
And speaking of, Lynn, speaking of all of that, this is one of the things that we asked students to do during the preseason challenge number 1, is take this food availability form and go to their local supermarket or market or wherever they are acquiring their fruits and vegetables, and to share with us what they found and what the prices are and that kind of thing. And Eric, I believe, has some interesting results from that for us.
I do. I turned into a map. I don't know if you saw that. I turned into a map.
Wow.
That's right.
Great trick.
So we've had at this point nearly over 100 submissions to that food survey, asking you to discover what's available in your area. What are the costs of some of the produce we asked about, to provide additional information. And we've begun the process of compiling that into visual data. And that's what you see on the map here. Now, this is not complete. We're still compiling, and there are still entries coming in. And for those who are watching this as your first stream and didn't participate in part 1 or preseason challenge 1, we encourage you to go back and continue this process of updating this form or submitting this form if you haven't already, so we can grow this data set. What you're looking at right now, the pins or the blue dots that you're looking at right now, these are all the places that we've collected data from across the globe so far, which is pretty spectacular. It covers a pretty good section of the globe here. And on the left, you can see, of course, all of those cities. But then if we wanted to, and we can start looking at some of the data, we can remove those pins and say, well, where in those places were potatoes available? And here we can see pins of where potatoes were available. Pretty good amount of places. In fact, I think almost all but one of the places that submitted had potatoes regularly available to them. But if we turn that off and switch over to cassava, and we'll change the background color of the map here to make this easier to see, we see that that's actually available in significantly less of the areas that were surveyed. Now, again, cassava is considered one of the highest in-demand crops in the world when we did our, looking it up, and it's why we included it here. So the question then becomes, when we look at this data, is it in high demand but only in specific areas? Or is it in high demand but not readily available everywhere? Is it in high demand but only grows in a few areas, making shipping more difficult to other locations? So, we can start to ask those questions as we start to look at the data.
Or I wonder if it's
from cassava
to
bananas, we get more pins again.
Sorry, I just was having a thought on the cassavas. What if it's eaten in a place with a really dense population? And so maybe it's only eaten in a few places, but if there are a lot of people there, then that might make it one of the more more popular worldwide. Bananas are everywhere.
Bananas are everywhere, apparently, right? Which is funny because they don't actually grow everywhere. But one of the things that's unique about them, and this is going to be one of the things that is going to be something we consider as we get into our regular season world and we discuss, is how have bananas been grown or hybridized or genetically engineered to withstand shipping? You know, which types or which breeds, which bananas in which places, which types of bananas can survive those shipping methods. And it may lead to us understanding why certain bananas are available in certain areas. So for example, where I live, bananas are not growing anywhere near here. The bananas that need to, right, that are getting here need to withstand a lot of transportation, a lot of shipping. They need to also make sure that they don't ripen before they get here and are rotten fruit before they arrive. So all of that goes into how we determine what gets shipped where and what we grow and how we grow it. And that kind of takes us into the discussion for today. So let me switch back to me. Me again. See that? I turned from a map back to me.
Wow.
Magic.
There you are. Voila.
Yeah. I'm going to turn into Minecraft in a second.
Everybody,
you know, it's magical like that.
You want a
That's
banana?
it. You're done.
Boom. Just press a button.
You just press a button and you become a map full of bananas. But that brings us to our topic for today, which is really around food transportation. And some of the entries we saw really did actually already start to talk about that, right? We saw examples, especially from the team at eBlaze Air, talking about how that was one of the solutions. How do we ensure that we transport produce to make it available to that? And that's exactly what we want you to address. And what we're going to talk about a little bit today is how does that handled? What are the challenges? What do we need to prepare for? What are the costs incurred? How does transportation affect our environment? There are so many things to consider. That transportation is a huge part of agriculture, and it took us to season 3 to get to it. And that just kind of gives us an idea of just how much and how big the idea, the concept, and the industry of agriculture really is, how much goes into it. And I think even after this season, we've barely scratched the surface.
Absolutely. It's so complex now that we are really diving into all the different aspects. You know, I live in an area with lots of farming, and it's been so easy to drive down the road and see, you know, a grove full of almond trees and not even really think about all the decisions that were made initially to decide what to grow or how to fertilize it or how to water it or what do we do when there's a drought or what do we do when there's a fire, and you know,
how much
all
water
these different
does it take to make a single almond.
How much water do you need?
Amazing.
All of those things. And now because now I'm thinking, how do they get them off the trees? How do they load them into trucks? Do they put them in trucks? Do they put them on trains? You know, I mean, there's so much involved. It's so fun to explore all of this.
And even how much of those fields that you're passing that are full of you know, agriculture and crops growing, how much of that crop is for human consumption, right? Because because we've got, you know, livestock. Those livestock need to eat. We've got pets. Those pets need to eat, you know, so we're not the only ones consuming the produce that's being grown.
Right. That's an excellent point. Excellent point.
So let's jump in, Brian. It's gonna be you and me. Let's jump into Minecraft. We're gonna jump back to our farm and talk about we grew our crops. We do have a little farm, like a farmer's market that we built last time and populated a little bit. But now if we wanted to get some of our crops to other areas for sale and make that food available to other areas and not just literally the people who live around the farm, how are we going to do it? So let's jump in.
All right.
I'm looking for you. I haven't found you.
I'm making a delivery. We had to get our crops out.
Are you? Okay.
I didn't want them to go bad. There's a village nearby, and they ordered some bananas, and I'm making the delivery as we speak. So I'll be back after.
I thought you might have been around the corner eating a banana.
No,
So
ice cream. I was eating the
we
ice
had our
cream.
farm. Yeah. Is it banana ice cream? You could just say it's all in one thing. We're good to go.
No.
Vanilla ice
Uh,
cream.
okay, fair. I mean, you can add a little vanilla to the banana. It works. But we started with our farm, early streams. In fact, we started this, 2-3 years ago. Last time we were on the stream, we built our little look at you farmers market. Yes, I like my puns. I will always like my puns. And so what we started doing now is looking at ways we can transport some of our produce out of here. So one of the most common ways that produce is transported from farm to market is by truck. And we find this globally to be the case. And we can talk a little bit about what the positives and the negatives of utilizing trucks to transport our goods are. And also noticing that sometimes and often, trucks are sort of not just the way to transport directly to the market, but they're sort of the intermediary. They're the in between, right? Because even if we wanted to ship it by boat or by plane or by train, we still have to get it to those places because the train is not coming right to the farm and the plane is not, landing right at our farm. That would be cool, but it's not happening. Maybe if you've got a farm with a private jet. I don't.
Ooh, that sounds
I don't
fun.
have a farm with a private jet, right? So we could talk about trucks and talk about the positives and negatives of it. So what do you all think? What are some of the positives of utilizing trucks? What are some of the negatives of utilizing trucks for shipping our produce? Because these are some of the questions we want the students to consider as they're doing this as well.
Well, I think you could back a truck right up to the farm. And when I look at the farm that's created here, I believe I see a little ocean off to the side, but that is not the case in many farms. And so how are you going to get it?
It's a bit more of a swamp than an ocean.
It's swampy.
I know that you would bring a cargo ship in right here, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So how are you going to get it onto the transportation mode of choice? So I wonder if you choose boat, you might even have to start with truck and then get to boat eventually anyway.
And we can talk about scale a little bit too. One of the things I mentioned was it would be a little difficult to bring a cargo ship in here, but there are communities that are very much on the water. And I think of places in Italy or Southeast Asia or, all across the world where smaller boats can get in. And the question is then, do you use those smaller boats to, as the first method of transport to and from the farm? And again, I'm hoping we learn some of that from some of the communities that are participating. What are the methods of your community when it comes to transporting produce, and where is it going? So if it's flying out of country to other places, how is it getting to those planes? And then, of course, where are those planes going? If it's getting out by boat, how far is that from the farm? How is the produce getting to and from the boat? Where is the boat going? All of those questions about how our food, the journey, if you will, the food is taking. I feel like Brian is secretly building something in the background here. I can't tell. I did find you there.
You might be on to me.
Let's see what you got in your hand there.
I mean, nothing. It's nothing. I
okay.
swear.
That's fair. So what do you think, Brian? What else could we build? What else could we add to our farm here to aid in the transportation of goods and services from our farm?
Well, I mean, one of them I think is another kind of land-based travel would be like a railroad. If you follow me here.
Following. Oh, you've been busy. Look at you saying you were delivering bananas in your...
So
he was preparing to deliver bananas.
If you want to get ready to hop in this minecart with me, we can go for a little adventure.
No way.
Okay.
You
want to grab another one?
I will.
See how far ahead I am. There you go. Okay.
So as we're kind of going around here, we could see, obviously, just the amount of resources that it takes to plan and build railroads is super interesting, right? So that being said, they don't go from point to point like roads do. They go from maybe hub to hub, where you would have to get your your farming supplies to a main warehouse where it all gets loaded on a train and then once it arrives, it would have to be, broken up and delivered to different supermarkets and things like that. So that's an interesting thing. It's like, wow, like you have your local transportation, and then you have your kind of larger scale transportation. But here you have water to go over, you have mountains, there was snow that we had to go by, and different terrain. We haven't had to deal with other property owners being an issue, but we have
good point.
Other things like that. But we do have we've arrived to another village for them some food.
Yeah, so if we wanted to transport food, we could. And I know even Minecraft, to be honest, has some tools built in, right? Because you've got like the storage crate minecart and things like that we could have loaded up with some produce and then sent it on its way, and sent it over to here. Could have definitely done that. But we want you to think a little bit bigger than that. We want you to think of real world examples. So, and not only what are the examples and ways we can do it, but what are the limitations of all of those, right? So, for example, we've got this railroad here that we've built very quickly and utilizing the tools that are in Minecraft. Really fast, by the way, Brian. Good job. So it was like really,
it was a lot.
Really
I'm like, oh man, that's not close.
But you had to find the nearest village first, right?
Yeah.
But I think of where I used to live in South Florida, and how much of the produce that would come in from the Caribbean, for example, Caribbean islands. Those islands are really, really close to the southern tip of Florida. They are not a huge distance. In fact, much of transporting goods into Florida, let's say as an example, Florida is this sort of long, skinny peninsula of a landmass, which means they're by road or by train, there's sort of one direction in and one direction out. And while it would be closer to get things in from the Caribbean islands, we couldn't very well build a railroad. So the limitation, right, is what land or areas it has to cover. Wouldn't make sense to build a railroad. Now, again, I mean, I guess feasibly a bridge could be built, but what's the cost involved? What's the infrastructure needs? What's the upkeep on it?
Maintenance, yeah.
How is that maintained? What's the safety of it in an area that gets frequent hurricanes?
Yeah, how vulnerable is it to weather? Just like the rainy season is affecting ground transportation, like different areas of the world. The weather you experience in your biome may be totally different from what somebody else does, and so like what would be super interesting too is like incompatible modes of transportation. If somebody had to fly something out of somewhere but had a hard time landing it somewhere else, then that would make things a little bit more challenging.
Well, and even
I went back to the beginning. I wanted one more ride.
I'm thinking about the mount. I also live close to the mountains, and when it's snowing, the trucks have to stop and put on chains, or sometimes they close the road entirely because of snow, and then that alters the amount of time that food or produce is in a truck being transported, and so you have to make exceptions and plan for things that you really can't necessarily plan for.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that could be a problem.
Whoa, like that could be a problem.
Oh, look at you with the narrative.
I thought going into the ocean was my specialty. I love that someone else ended up in the water. Yeah, but there are those things, right, that hopefully falling off a bridge is not one of them.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want that.
There are unexpected issues, and you will be, the little spoiler alert. Those types of things are real, and you will encounter those in Farmcraft. And there's different reasons for you to encounter them. But the reality of a ship being stuck at port that is just simply, there may not be maybe there is no truck drivers available to deliver. Maybe there's not enough people on the docks to unload ships fast enough, and your crops are basically rotting on the boat. What if the roads are closed because of weather? What if the train tracks are out because of a storm or because of some other disturbance or something like that? These are realities, and these are things we can't necessarily plan for, but they happen. And so, we, just like we do with caterpillars, we've kind of forced the uncomfortable experiences on people.
They're fun
bringing it
and
to
uncomfortable.
a very real world example, I think that most of us can relate to, and I'm speaking, of course, when I say most, of really the global community that's participating in Farmcraft is, most of us had to deal with the pandemic as of late. And there were many things that we could not have expected, including, things backing up at port because the workers that were available to be there, or the risks that were involved were so limited that, a lot of produce got stopped at ports that didn't make it to, community markets. Markets saw either increases in prices or a reduction in availability of certain items at those markets. I don't think anyone could have necessarily predicted that that's going to occur, and it happened, quite literally worldwide.
Yeah.
And we had the incident in 2021 too, where the Suez Canal was blocked.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. I totally forgot about that.
I had forgotten about that.
Major
Yeah, so
blockage.
literally one ship in that instance, right, brought so much of the transportation of things like crops to an almost standstill on a global level for at least major parts of the world.
That's interesting.
Okay, so this is challenge 2.
This is challenge 2. So let's get into what the exact wording of the challenge is, what we are asking for, where to find that information, and everything else you'll need to submit for challenge 2. And of course, if you're just joining us, because registration, of course, is still open, you can start with challenge 2. There are some things we will recommend you do from challenge 1. Let's go back to it. But let's take a look at challenge 2. So I'm going to come over to our Farmcraft website again. So we are at nasef.org/farmcraft. Here we are. We've been to this site quite a few times. If you're not sure how to get here, I just, of course, mentioned the website. But if you just head to nasef.org as well and drop down on play, you will see Minecraft competitions. And of course, if you click there, there will be an icon to click on for this competition, which is the NASEF Farmcraft competition. But there are so many Minecraft competitions, you can find them all in one place. And this is the one we're heading to now. Of course, I mentioned the registration still being open. That button is still there. It is still live. But of course, as we scroll down on the page, we can now see Preseason Challenge number 2. And of course, here you'll find the educator guide and a button to submit. And of course, over here, we have the embedded Flipgrid as well. You have either option. You can either log in right here in the embedded window. But most of us find it a little easier if we're going to record or submit our video to bring up the window sort of full screen. So we can do that by clicking this submit button right here. And that will bring us to the challenge if you are logged in correctly, which you can use your Microsoft or Google accounts to log in. And here is the challenge. So let's take a look at it and let's read it. And maybe I can zoom in a little bit so we can get a closer look at the text here. There we go. All right, so your job for food preseason challenge number 2, food transportation, is research the types of transportation used to distribute produce to markets in your area. So on this last challenge, you were looking at what was available in your markets in your area. Now, how is it getting to and from those markets? Build, narrate, and submit a Minecraft world that demonstrates your learning, displays your understanding, and educates others on food transportation in your area. And I want to stress this. We are talking about your area. So if you are in the United States in a particular city, we want to know, which forms of transportation are bringing food to and from there. If you looked up produce last time and we asked you to look at those labels and you said, oh, on the label it said, we had one example. It was amazing to me, where we had a team in Nigeria submit and their potatoes came all the way from Peru. That is a huge distance.
Wow. Especially for potatoes.
Right. So maybe from truck, it left the farm, and maybe by truck it arrived at the farm. But there had to be a whole bunch of steps of that journey in between. Right. So try and figure out what those steps are, or, make some predictions about what those steps are. Do that research and then present it in your Minecraft world. And we even talk about that. In Preseason Challenge 1, you were tasked with identifying the availability of certain produce items. you may have included where the produce was grown. That information can be used to guide you in this challenge. Some questions to consider when researching and developing your build, and we love to hear the responses. We have so many teams that when they submit, they really do address these questions directly. So consider these. We love to hear it. How does produce get from farms to my local markets? How far do certain types of produce have to travel to arrive at my local market? What is the connection of food transportation and climate change? I noticed a typo in there. I'll have to fix it. And what challenges does food transportation face? And what are some of the current solutions to these challenges? Climate change was a big portion of Farmcraft Season 2, if you were part of that. But we know that transportation is not without an environmental impact. So if trucks are all over the roads, if boats are going across the oceans, if planes are in the sky, what are the environmental impacts that those modes of transportation are having? And what are some ways we can address it? Of course, when you're ready, you'll click that Add to Topic button. Now, if you're not sure how to submit to Flipgrid, we encourage you. The recordings are on the website. Go back to on the YouTube page, and those links, of course, are on the Farmcraft page. You will find all sorts of that information here. But we encourage you, and of course, here are those previous recordings. Here's a challenge if you need to go back to it. Go back to that if you're not sure how to submit to Flipgrid or if you've never done, because we talk very detailed on how to do that on those streams. So if you're not familiar quite yet with how to submit via Flipgrid, go back and watch some of those videos. We have those resources for you. And that is Preseason Challenge 2, Food Transportation and Distribution. How is the food getting to your markets? Educate us. We want to hear from you. We want to know how you do it, and we want to see it in your world.
I'd love to see if you can add also like what kind of science is involved in the process. Like you have a mechanical transportation device, but the environment that is within the container that you're shipping, like how is that managed? Like are we using different kinds of elements in lieu of just regular air? Are we using,
or are we controlling the temperature or the humidity? Right. The
exactly. And also, are we protecting the crops, or are we engineering crops that are more durable and can be treated more, on a large scale, a little more rough without getting damaged. All the things like that. Consider the other factors related to the transportation too, if that fits within the scope, because I'm curious.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about...
All right, I turned from an ASF website back into a human.
Whoa!
Woo, it's magic.
Not even a puff of smoke.
That's right.
I just was thinking, when you're talking about that, I can picture tomatoes rolling down the freeway in it, not right now because it's winter, but in the summer when they've been harvested locally in an open truck. Yep. But then I also know there are refrigerator trucks that go by me all the time that are keeping things, contained and climate controlled. So those are all factors to think about.
Totally.
Yeah, fantastic. So you have your challenge. The task is set before you. You've gotten to see today a few videos of what was submitted to us in Preseason Challenge number 1. So you've got some inspiration there and some ideas also around what makes a good video submission. We know Eric always likes to talk about things like staying steady, try to narrate what you're doing. We really appreciate the students from Japan did the subtitles also, which helps us as we're all coming from different countries. If we could do subtitles, that's helpful. So all those little things make for a great video, and that is good practice for you for the regular season, because we also have prizes available in the regular season. And so we want to make sure you're sharpening those skills so that when you get to that point, you've got everything ready to go. So our next stream is coming up in a few weeks here on March 9th. We want to make sure that we get to see you all here. And in the meantime, be sure that you have registered. If you don't have Minecraft Education Edition, please let us know while you're registering it, and NICEF will provide that to you free. And of course, it's free to join this. So I can't imagine why you wouldn't join this fantastic event. We'd love to see what y'all have. I was trying to think of something. Let's see. Last time my homework assignment was to go and eat some vanilla ice cream. So I think
That's
the
some
homework
tough
assignment.
homework.
So now
The homework
transport
assignment
some
this
vanilla ice
time-
cream to your home.
Oh, I was thinking something related to bananas because we spent so much time talking about
Oh,
bananas.
I
So
mean,
I wonder, Claire, how many countries around the world where, I mean, here in the United States, we have what's called the banana split, which is flavors
oh,
Look at you. You have put all the concepts together.
I love it.
Ice cream and bananas
Scaffolding
are
right
in
here, yeah.
one.
My
That's right. I'm going to have to
homework-
start wondering with challenge 3 how we're going to incorporate that into the banana split. There's
Right.
going to need to be some sort of topping. Maybe we can
cherry on
bring it in
top,
there.
yeah.
That's right.
Oh man. All right. Homework this time is complete preseason challenge number 2 and eat a banana split if at all possible. Banana split is vanilla ice cream, bananas, strawberry, pineapple, and chocolate topping, right?
right.
With whipped cream and nuts and a cherry. I don't like the nuts, but whatever. I just get extra whipped cream.
No
So-
sprinkles? I didn't hear sprinkles in there.
Oh, sprinkles. I
Ah.
don't usually. I'm not a sprinkles person either, but you know.
Also,
customize
this is a global competition. So somewhere right now, someone is yelling at me. They're called Jimmy's, and
Oh,
no
right.
sprinkles is in there.
That's right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing all of your submissions. If you have any questions,
Good
as
luck
always,
to everyone.
email us. Yes, and good luck to everyone. And we will see you on March 9th.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Good luck.